quick demo walkthrough of this next exercise. We're trying to map a cube, a cylinder, and a sphere with a texture, and each shape is going to take a different mapping. So first notice that I'm in the compositing layout, which gives me the node editor, the 3D view, and the UV image editor. And the first thing I'm going to do is make myself a UV image test grid. New, and then UV grid. And I'm going to make its type be UV grid. That's what gives me this grid, right? This grid is just an image. It could be a palm tree or a snowy landscape. Right now it's a test grid because the grid will show me very cleanly and clearly whether the mapping is working well or not. So let's map the cube. It has no material and it needs one, so I'm going to click New, which gives me a new diffuse material, and I'm going to Shift A, add a texture, image texture node in my node editor, and I'm going to pick, not open, but pick the UV grid that I just made down here, and I'm going to deliver the color information to the diffuse material. Now, notice how the grid is not displaying on the cube when I go into render view. That's because the cube has not been mapped. We've plugged in all the nodes that the texture needs, but we haven't actually mapped the flat image onto this three-dimensional object. So let's do that. Tab into edit mode, select all the vertices, U to unwrap, and I'm going to choose cube projection. Great. As soon as I do, I get this mapping of the cube. And if I want, I can scale to bounds and get a nice clean set of UV grid patterns on every face of my cube. If I come to the cylinder, I can do the same thing. Make a new material, Shift A, add an image texture node, pick the UV grid, connect the color, and tab into edit mode, and select all the vertices, tap the U key, and instead of cube projection, let's do cylinder projection. Notice how from this angle, the cylinder projection gets a little bit screwy, and if I come to the front or the side where I have a good clean angle, cylinder projection is much more clean. And again, if I scale to bounds, it'll fit within the 0 to 1 space. And then in render mode, I've got my grid wrapping all the way around the cylinder. Good. Again with the sphere, let's give it a new texture, Shift A, add texture, image texture, pick the UV grid, connect the color, check render view, right? No grid yet because I haven't mapped the sphere. So let's go into edit mode, select all the vertices, U to unwrap, and sphere projection. And again, if I'm a little tilted, the projection gets a little tilted. So let's come to a nice clean angle, in this case right view, and then sphere projection, and that gives me a good clean projection that I can scale to bounds and check in render view to see that I've got a nice clean sphere pattern projected onto my sphere, right? This is all about taking a two-dimensional flat image and telling Blender how you would like to wrap it around each of these very different three-dimensional shapes.